Hey guys, it's been a few weeks since I've made a video. I've actually been working on the car quite a bit despite not making any videos or anything. I've just had little bits of time here and there to work on the car, and it's a lot easier to work on it when I don't have to worry about setting up the camera and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just using the little GoPro here to make a quick update for you. And yeah, I'll just go over everything I've done over the last few weeks just to kind of get you up to speed. You can see the turbos back on the exhaust manifold. Hopefully it shouldn't have to come off again. The compressor housing is just kind of loosely installed for now until I get the piping and stuff mounted up and oriented properly. I still might send the compressor housing off to get powder coated to match the valve covers and the other stuff that's powder coated. But my main concern there is that it won't match perfectly because it's being powder coated at a different time, obviously. You can see I've got the downpipe back on there too. I actually ended up patching up the downpipe because I've been running the wastegate recirculated up until now. So I'm switching over just to an open dump in the hopes of maybe freeing up just a few extra free ponies. And the 2JZ sounds awesome with an open dump, so can't go wrong there. So yeah, turbo and the downpipe. I'm just waiting on a couple pieces of exhaust piping to fabricate a little dump pipe down underneath the vehicle to keep the exhaust off of stuff. And then that should be good to go. I should be able to reinstall the rest of the exhaust. That's the mid pipe there on my messy table. I got the fluid damper installed. I've had that for a few weeks and finally got around to installing it. I had to borrow a proper torque wrench. That factory crankshaft bolt's torqued to like 240 foot-pounds, so got that installed. I had been running just the factory one up until this point, and it's looking pretty bad. Actually the rubber damper material that like separates the inside from the outside is cracked the entire way around in more than one spot. So felt good to get that eliminated because I have heard of several occasions where people have those things fly apart, and you can imagine how bad that would be at 7,000 RPM or whatever. You can see the air conditioning system is gone. I ditched the condenser, the hard lines. You can see that hole in the firewall is where the old hard lines went into the cab. And so yeah, AC system's out. It's actually over here on the floor. Felt good to get all that junk out of the way. This here is actually just the front case half of the factory AC compressor. You can see the compressor over here, obviously missing the front half. But this is essentially just going to be a idler pulley now. So this will allow me to keep the factory belt size and the belt routing. So I don't have to worry about finding a different belt size or anything else. There are a few companies that make an AC delete kit, but the problem there is they're not really compatible with the 6-speed tensioner assembly. So they'll have the belt come around the power steering pump up here and then attempt to go down around the crankshaft, but with this 6-speed tensioner bracket, the belt interferes with it. So I was pleased to find that gutting the AC compressor was super easy. It fits perfect. Too many reasons to just do it that way rather than trying to cobble up something aftermarket. So anyway, it might look a little silly, but once the intake manifold and the radiator and everything's back in, you'll never even see that down there. You can see the power steering pump I've got taken out, and that's because I'm in the process of rebuilding it. It just had a little leak, I think, out the back of this case, this cover. So ended up ordering just a rebuild kit from Lexus that should be here this week, and I can put that back together and put it back on the car. Yeah, then I can throw the belt back on it, put the radiator back in, and that should hopefully wrap up kind of the front portion of things. I ended up doing an oil change. I probably only had 300 or 400 miles on the oil that was in there, but it gets contaminated pretty quickly with using ethanol. I only drive the car 800 to 1,000 miles a year, so I usually change the oil twice a year, every 400 or 500 miles. And every time I change it, it reeks pretty badly of ethanol. So you can see up here, these are not the factory coil packs. These are LQ9 coils. It's a kit that I got from a company called Mojo Performance. So pretty clean bracket set up with the LQ9 coils. Should be a significant ignition system upgrade. On the same note, obviously the wiring and stuff's going to change, and I ended up sending my engine harness and the DZOD AEM patch harness off to a company called Tweaked Performance, and they're hopefully going to build me a fully custom engine harness with everything I need, with the LQ9 plugs, ID 1700 plugs. They can basically eliminate the DZOD patch harness and just incorporate it all into the same harness, and should clean up the wiring situation a ton. So I'm looking forward to getting that back. I think that's it up here. Yeah, the interior's a little bit torn apart. You can see the center console is kind of torn apart. Just cleaning up some of the wiring. I don't run a radio. I have a custom panel with some gauges, so just cleaning up the gauge wiring and stuff in there. You can see it's kind of a mess down here because this is where the AEM goes, and I'll have to clean all that, finish cleaning that up when I get the new engine harness and stuff back. And I pulled the fuel pump system out, so I've been running a Squash Performance dual pump setup with two Dishwork 300 pumps, and the main pump over just towards the end of last year was starting to produce kind of a weird noise, so I pulled the hanger out and ended up just sending it to Squash to have them upgrade both pumps to Walbro 450s. So you can see the relays I have marked primary and secondary. I cleaned up that wiring a little bit, even though it's still kind of a mess. Yeah, the main fuel pump just runs off of a basic toggle switch. So that turns on the main pump just for driving and starting and stuff like that. But the AEM enables the secondary pump at anything over 1 pound of boost. So once the map sensor sees 1 pound of boost, it kicks on that secondary fuel pump to make sure that there's enough fuel pressure feeding the rail and the injectors and stuff. So with two 450s in there, I think that's enough fuel to support probably 800 or 900 wheel horsepower at least on ethanol. So I don't think that turbo will even make that much, but it's always good to kind of overbuild the fuel system because the last thing you want is to run out of fuel. I think that's it. That's pretty much wraps up what I've done over the last few weeks. And yeah. Anyway, as always, thanks for watching, and let me know if you have any questions or anything. Take it easy.